Mr. Speaker, clearly there's no consequences for bad behaviour on the government side of the House. And for the last 5 minutes, again, just like leading up to budget, all you heard from the government benches was Labor this, Barbara Edmonds that, Chris Hipkins this, because there's nothing fun in their budget to celebrate, which is why they're concentrated on this side of the House. Aote whaatalo whaatu ma le whaaro alo malo le soifua mo malangi e mama. Manuia le vaiaso le nganana Samoa to the almost 214,000 Samoans in our country today. And Mr. Speaker, my parents came to New Zealand from Samoa to give their children a better education. Before my mother died from cancer, she was an aged care worker who worked for various rest homes across Auckland. I come from a family of aged care sector workers with 4 aunts who have or currently work in that sector today. Caring is in our bones. Despite how hard the job is, whether you have to hand feed someone, whether you have to shower them, whether you have to clean up after them when they've had an accident, I am so proud of my aunties and my mother who did this very humble job despite the long hours and the low pay. But what I'm not proud of is this government's budget. So I wholeheartedly agree with Chris Hipkins in the motion he put to Parliament on the 22nd of May that this House has no confidence in the government's budget. It has chosen to pay for this budget by cutting the wages of working women.
That's right.
And Mr. Speaker, this budget will forever be known as the budget that cut women's pay.
That's right.
Cutting women's pay to make the budget add up was a deliberate decision by Nicolas and this government. And the government changed that law under urgency, wiping 33 claims off the books and hoped they'd get away with it. But I give credit to David Seymour, the new Deputy Prime Minister. He was the one telling the truth when he said that their decision saved the budget a staggering $12 billion.
That's right.
$12 billion. When I reflected on the speeches given by the government ministers, both when the legislation that set the tone for this year's budget go through, and of these speeches in 2020, I heard a lot of words about our daughters and their futures.
That's right.
Let me make it clear. It's not about our daughters. I have 6 daughters, and although they are front of mind when I have to top up their phones or give them money, they are not front of my mind when we are talking about pay equity. I am thinking about the daughters of community midwives. I'm thinking about the daughters of plunket nurses, the daughters of aged care workers and care and support workers, who are some of the hardest working women that I know of. I am thinking of their girls, because I know my girls will be okay. I know they'll be fine. They have a tertiary educated mother who is on a 6-figure salary.
That's right.
Parents who can provide a stable, warm roof over their heads and can top up their phones whenever they need it. What this budget said to the daughters of those hard-working women is that your mother's contribution to the economy is less than a man is. When you take money that has been set aside for future pay rises and you put it into something else, that is a cut. It is very plain and simple, a cut. If we are not here in this House to lift the wages of low income and our lowest paid workers, why are we here? Ask yourself that question. Why are you here? Why are members of this House here but for to lift the wages of everyday Kiwis?
That's right.
If growth was a panacea for lifting wages, then why did we even need an Equal Pay Act in the first place?
That's right.
We needed it because there were clear structural issues, and this national-led government has lifted up the ladder after them, and they should be ashamed. Every single one of those government members should be ashamed. And you hear a lot about the growth budget. And speaking of the growth budget, I agree again with Chris Hipkins. This is a growth budget, all right. Growth in unemployment. There will be 22,000 more people on the job seeker benefit as a result of this government's decisions. Growth in New Zealanders leaving, as it's clear to them this budget had nothing in there for them to keep them in our country, and the government doesn't value their skills. The number of graduate nurses I have spoken to in the last year who, due to the hiring freezes by this government, have been unable to secure a job. A year later, unable to secure a job despite finishing their studies and qualifying, is a shameful, shameful indictment on this government who seem to know about the cost of everything but the value of nothing. New Zealand might as well be known as the University of Australia, where you can train here, you can qualify, get a plane ticket, go to Australia where you will earn more money and buy your first home.
That's right.
And this is a growth budget, all right? This is a growth budget for homelessness. The savings of $1 billion by tightening the criteria and access to emergency housing is evident by the number of homeless people on our streets. You need only walk through the Auckland CBD. You need only walk through the Wellington CBD to see the number of homeless people who are on our streets every day. And when housing supports advocates are saying, we have a problem, you need to listen to them. Vicky Sykes, the Chief Executive of the Monte Cecilia Housing, says, we see every day more and more people coming to us desperate for housing and finding it more difficult to navigate MSD. Clearly, MSD have a lack of resources, and the Minister has said he's shifting the focus to the job seeker support. However, that doesn't solve the issue of homelessness and emergency housing. This is a growth budget, a growth in waiting lists by failing to adequately service our healthcare needs in this country. It's no wonder why we have reports in Middlemore Hospital, in one of our highest needs area, that the country reporting that we have 1,500 patients who were treated in corridors over a period of just over a month. This is an absolute disgrace. This is also the budget of growing hopelessness for our young people, for our rangatahi. This budget raided their KiwiSaver accounts. It left more out in the cold by saying to 18 and 9-year-olds, you now have to depend on your parents. You're old enough to drink, you're old enough to vote, but actually you now have to depend on your parents. Where are the jobs for these 18 and 19-year-olds? When unemployment is now forecast to be higher than Nicolas Willis's own half-yearly economic update, where are the jobs? Where are the supports to get our youth into jobs, employment or training? Where are the apprenticeships? Where is the support for our tertiary education sector? This budget leaves our universities uncertain about their ability to deliver their programs because of funding shortages. That's not the New Zealand we need right now. These young 18-year-olds as well, due to the cuts in the KiwiSaver government contribution, they will be now $66,000 less when they go to retire. They will have $66,000 less. But finally, this budget just reinforces the economic mismanagement by this cruel and visionless government. The government have and are continuing to mismanage our economy. They have shrunk the economy, which is why they need to borrow more, and growth is lower than when we left the books in the half-yearly and the pre-election fiscal update in 2023. It's worse. Yes, every country has had post-pandemic issues. Everyone acknowledges that. But we are doing much worse than others because the National Party and National-led government have mismanaged this economy. And Nicolas Willis has just shrunk the pie. She's given the best pieces of it to foreign tech companies, to landlords, to tobacco companies, and now the gas industry. But she's telling New Zealand families, communities, workers, especially working women, you can just have the crumbs. You can just have the crumbs. And I'm still looking for that family, that mysterious ghost family who was applicable for a $250 tax cut. I'm waiting for the government to tell me about where are they? Mr. Speaker, in conclusion, every budget is a choice. These choices are meant to reflect the underlying values of the government of the day. The decision to cut women's pay is not just bad for the economy, it's a direct assault on our values as New Zealanders. We, the Labor Party, stand with working women across the country. We're not going to let the government assault what we value as a country: a job with decent pay for a day's work, a home that we can call our own, and access to healthcare when we need it the most. I do not commend this budget to the House.